What's up, witches? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I promised myself that this month my only video would not be my May reads, but here we are on the last day of June, and the only video I'm uploading this month, long form video, the only long form video I'm uploading to this month to my channel is yet again another what I read in the month. And as you can see by my stack, we got some good ones in May. May was my favorite reading month so far. It was like banger after banger after banger. So this is the stack that I have. This is not all of the books that I read because I checked out a lot of them from my library, but like last month, I took notes. As I read, I took notes. So without further ado, let's talk about the books that I read in May. I feel like I started off May super strong because I read the entirety of the Empyrean series. This was my birthday present to myself. If you didn't know, May is my birth month. I am a Taurus, a double Taurus, Taurus Sun, and Taurus Moon, and Taurus Venus with a Libra rising. But anyway, I started my month off with Fourth Wing. This was my birthday present to myself. All three of my kids were sick on my actual birthday, so instead of doing anything for it, I just sat and read the Empyrean series, and I think it was better than if I had actually went along with my plans, because this series is insane. Everybody who told me that the Empyrean series was better than ACOTAR was so right. And I don't typically like school-placed series or books because I just feel like as a 29-year-old woman, I don't necessarily want to be reading about like experiences in college, or like I've noticed that when the female main character, when the protagonist is really a lot younger than me and thinks a lot younger than me, I don't connect with the book and I don't enjoy it. So I've been trying to steer clear of that. However, Violet is like the most self-aware, like 19, 20-year-old in the entire world. She's so self-secure. She knows who she is. And then she knows why she's in the position that she's in and makes the most of it and just like continuously proves her strength. And that's not even touching the romance with Daddy Zader Royson. My chair, my house, my woman. Shut up. Shut up. Okay. I don't really get the whole like tattoo whirly strong man type thingies that are in all of these fantasy books, but with Xaden, I got it with him. And then the ending of this one, how am I living now that I don't have the fourth Empyrean book? I don't know how I'm breathing right now because I need to know what happens. These all three, each one 5-star, 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 5 stars, 15 stars altogether, and I know that fourth will be a 5-star too, so it'll be a 20-star series. Like, so good. Definitely, like, if you're gonna read one fantasy series this year, this one. So good. So good. As a Taurus, sometimes I find fantasy to be a little bit overwhelming because I can't like visualize it in my head. So after spending a lot of time in a fantasy world with the Empyrean series, I needed to go to literary fiction. I needed to come back to some slice of life reality. So I read The Burning Side by Sarah Damoff. Okay, so this one is about a woman named April and her husband Leo, and Leo tells April that he wants a divorce. And then the night that he tells April he wants a divorce, their house burns down. So they go to move in with April's parents, and her dad was just diagnosed with dementia. And then the whole family comes. It is like drama upon drama upon drama upon drama with like layers of heartbreak and hope, and I cried and I laughed and I cried and I just and then the ending, like knife to the heart, like this one was so good. If I could read it again for the first time, I would. I also read this I was listening to Noah Kahan's new album and the song Willing and Able on repeat with this. It was emotional damage on emotional damage in the best way, and 5 stars. This one was so good. So good. The next book that I read was Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood. This was a 4-star read for me. I absolutely loved it. It was about Eli and Rue and how they like shared the most horrible bits of themselves, their darkest bits of themselves, and the other would just love it and accept it and like take it, and it just like, oh my god, it was so good. It like hit all of the emotional pieces that I need, but it was also an Ali Hazelwood book, so it had a STEMinist character, so it was very nerdy, and like, if you don't know that about me, I love me a good nerdy character. I just love nerds. I am a nerd. I'm not like a sciencey nerd or whatever. I'm more of like a, like, as you can see, a book nerd, but I definitely identify with the whole nerd lifestyle, so I love reading about my fellow nerds. And their romance was so good. It reminded me so much of, like, if you don't know the lore behind me, I am a huge Glee role player. I have always been. That's just, and I have muses that like live in my head, like they just live there. And Rue and Eli reminded me so much of a ship that I made, Naomi and Ethan. And like, I was reading this and I'm like, this is exactly Naomi and Ethan. Like, just somebody actually put it into words instead of it just living up here randomly. And I think that made this book 10 times better for me. It was also like, this one was hella spicy. This was definitely an ovulation phase book. Hella spicy. But it was really, really, really good. But I love Ali Hazelwood. I think I would read anything she writes and enjoy it onto some level. So 4 stars, loved it. And after I read Not in Love, I was not done with Ali Hazelwood. I went straight into her book Bride, which is like her paranormal romance with a vampire and a werewolf shifter. The vampire's name is Misery. The werewolf was named Lo, and they had like an arranged marriage to like keep the peace between the vampires and the werewolves, and then they ended up falling in love, and it was just like, it was weird. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it was a little weird, but it had like the nerdy Ali Hazelwood banter. Like, they were video gaming and they were just being dorks as a vampire and a werewolf, and I loved it. So yeah, I gave that one 3 stars just because I wasn't as enthralled in it as I would have been with a 4-star, but like, it was still like really good and I would recommend it. So I loved that one. And then I couldn't get enough of Ali Hazelwood. I had to go to Mate, which was the sequel to Bride, because I needed to know about Serena and Cohen's story. Obviously, this one was more of like a fated mates kind of situation where Cohen was the alpha of the Northwest Pack, and he took a like celibacy pact. So he like wasn't allowed to like touch anybody, but Serena's his mate, and she needed him, and it was just like, it was hella spicy, spicier than Bride. Definitely a little weird still, but fun, more fun. I liked it more than Bride, but I still gave it a 3 stars. Just because, like, again, it was exciting, it was enthralling, it was a great story, but it just, like, wasn't as, like, it didn't have me, like, addictedly hooked the way, like, a 4 or 5 star would, but I really did like it. I did enjoy it. It was a fun book to read, and that's another one I would definitely recommend if you like paranormal romances, and if you're into the whole, like, wolf shifter thing, but I cannot emphasize enough how interesting that book is. Anyway, after that, I was like, okay, I need to get back into full-on fantasy. Like, I need some more Sarah J. Maas. I need to continue my prep before ACOTAR 6 comes out, so I read the entire Crescent City series in a week. These books are 800 pages each. I read them in a week, all 3. Not just one. No. All 3 in a week. Each of these was 5-star bangers for me. My only gripe with these ones, the smut in this was hella cringy. His balls tightened. What is that? Also, what is with Sarah J. Maas and breasts pebbling? Like, what is that? So the smut in this was hella cringy. Every time they get anywhere near anything, fuck yeah. I'm like, shut up. This is so, I had to skip those scenes. They were bad. They were badly written, I'm not gonna lie. But this series was so good. 5 stars. It read like a movie or like a TV show. You'd be like in one scene with one character, they'd be doing something, then they jump to the next thing, and I'm like, whoa, and then we go back to that, and I'm like, and then we go, and I'm like, oh, And it would be every single twist and turn, and like the way that they had to get energy together, and the whole like Danica aspect of it all, and then like, oh, jeez. It was just insane. And this series, I'm not gonna lie, like I heard a lot of like words, and like I read a lot of words and names and things that when I was starting Throne of Glass, I got to the third book and I got all like 75% of the way done with the third book before I DNF'd the Throne of Glass series. I kept seeing words and themes and things that like reminded me of Throne of Glass and were in there, and I'm like, you know what? Because I love this series so much, I think I need to go back to Throne of Glass. So not only were these 5-star reads for me, it inspired me to go back to Throne of Glass. Also, Nesta. Nesta was my favorite from ACOTAR. Silver Flames was my favorite book in ACOTAR because of Nesta. Like Farrah, okay, like she really bothered me in the first book especially. Like she was okay as an FMC, but Nesta, her story and the mountain, like it resonated on like a different plane. So to have her in here with Bryce who is a tenacious and like believes in herself even when she's like down, like doesn't let other people like kind of like show her own worth character, the two of them together was so good. I swear if ACOTAR 6 is not like Nesta building off of what happened in this book, I'm gonna lose it, because like I need to know what happens. I need to know how these worlds are all connected. I need to know how it all like pans out. Please Sarah J Maas, like I need to know. And I also just need more Bryce, and I know there's gonna be one more Crescent City book because we need the last house, so like I just need it. I need it now because I need more Bryce. So anyway, 5-star bangers. Loved me Crescent City. This one was so good. The next book that I read in May was Problematic Summer Romance by Ali Hazelwood. This is the second book after Not in Love, and it follows Eli's little sister, Maya, who is falling in love with Eli's bestie, Connor, who is like 38 years old, and she's only 23. So it's a little scandalous of a romance. I loved this one so much I actually had to buy it. I did also buy Not in Love, but I lent that to one of my pagan homeschooling mama friends, so she has my copy of that. But this was a 4-star for me. It was so good, so fun, great for summer. I read it in like the last week of May when it was starting to get hot, and I was like, you know, doing more like beachy and fun activities, like those kind of activities with my kids. I just wanted to align this with like as a good summer read. It was so good. And this is Ali Hazelwood. It has the STEMinist type of things in here. So it's nerdy, it's smutty, it's summery, it's problematic, it's everything a Taurus like me needs. The next book that I read was Assistant to the Villain. This is about Evie Sage, who goes and assists her like village's villain. His name is Tristan. It was cute. It was a cozy little fantasy. It left me wanting more. I gave this book 3 stars, but it really just left me wanting more. And it was like, you know, Bride and Mate were 3 stars that were like, they were like exciting and I would recommend them. Assistant to the Villain was a 3-star where it was like, it was okay. And unless like cozy romance is your thing, cozy like, you know, romantasy is your thing, I probably would skip it. It wasn't the best, wasn't the worst. I don't really have much more to say to it. I did really love Kingsley the Frog. He was hysterical, probably my favorite character. The last book I read in the month of May was Our Perfect Storm by Carly Fortune. This was my last book that I read in May, and it was like so perfect because it was a hot and rainy May day that I read it. I literally read this one in a day. I just like, my husband was home and we were all hanging out on the couch and I started reading this and I'm like, yeah, I'll get to page 100. And then 100 became 200, 200 became 300, 300 became, I need to just finish this book because it is so good. I ate it up with a spoon. It is about a girl named Frankie and her best friend George, and they go on her honeymoon because Frankie was dumped the day before her wedding. He left her high and dry. So instead of her just, you know, moping around, George takes her on her honeymoon and they fall in love. Well, George has always been in love with her, and Frankie kind of realizes the same, and it's so good. It's so cute. It is literally like a perfect storm. I read it with perfect weather too, and I just, it was such a good vibe. I gave this one 4 stars because like I'm honestly having a hard time justifying why it was just a 4-star and why it wasn't a 5-star. Honestly, I think it was a 4-star and not a 5 because it did have a little bit of like the dual timeline aspect, and I don't like dual timeline, I don't think. This also had a little bit of the dual timeline, but it wasn't as prominent as in this one, I don't think. But either way, I did really, really, really enjoy it. So I felt like it was a really well done dual timeline, because like my issue with dual timeline is it'll like get to a point, you'll get to an answer, and then it goes back to the present timeline. And I think that's the point of dual timeline, but I don't like it as a tourist. I'm very linear. Like just let me get straight through it. And I honestly think that's probably part of my Aries Mercury, is just wanting to get through the story and get it done. So anyway, even though this had dual timeline aspects, it was still a 4-star. It was still super duper good. Those were all of the physical books that I read in May, and I did listen to 3 audiobooks. The first one I listened to was Dear Debbie by Frida McFadden. I gave that 3 stars. It was really lackluster for me. It was about a mom, Debbie, who has an advice column on her local like newspaper, and like it's about her trying to deal with things that happen in her life and then just getting progressively darker. I don't know. It just like felt like very simple, to put it plainly. If anybody has read Frida McFadden books and can recommend one that's actually really good, that is not The Housemaid, because I tried The Housemaid and it did not speak to me. So like I don't know, maybe I just don't like Frida McFadden. Maybe I just don't like thrillers. So yeah, if you've read any Frida McFadden and you want to recommend me one, let me know. Or if you have a better thriller that you know of, let me know of it. Let me know and I will give it a shot. The next one that I listened to was Assassin's Blade. Technically, I only listened to like 25% of it because I wasn't going to re-listen to it after almost finishing it the month before. But I had to go and finish it after reading Crescent City. I like had to go further into Throne of Glass. I'm so glad that I did. When I make my June one of these videos, we'll talk more, because I just finished book 4. Oh, I did Air of Fire, and then I did the 5th book, which was what, Queen of Shadows? Oh, I can't. This series is insane. It's insane. It's definitely not my favorite of the Massiverse. I don't know. We'll see how the next 3 books take me, but it's so good. And I think that if I read Crescent City before ever starting Throne of Glass, and instead of starting Throne of Glass itself with Throne of Glass and starting it with Assassin's Blade, so I could understand a little bit more about Selena, and her backstory, and like why she goes, I am Selena Chardathian, and like why she seems so redundant to me, I would have enjoyed it more. So I do regret not reading Crescent City and Assassin's Blade first. But after I finished it, I really liked it. I gave it 3 stars, and I kept going in the series. The final audiobook I listened to was This Story Might Save Your Life by Tiffany Crum. I gave that one 3 stars. I actually would recommend it. Like, it was actually really, really good. And I would recommend listening to it versus reading it as a book. I tried to read it as a book. I was not a fan of reading it, but listening to it and hearing all of like the podcast elements and aspects to it was so good. It is about a woman named Joy and her podcast co-host Benny. They have a survival podcast together, and the show takes a whole different turn when Joy ends up missing and Benny has to investigate to find her. So it was super interesting. I did really like it. But like I said, I would listen to that instead of reading it, because it was just, the podcast elements were so fun. Those are all of the books that I read in the month of May. I loved the books that I read in May. I think, like I said, this was the best reading month. I had Crescent City, I had Fourth Wing, that were both like 5-star series. I had a 5-star standalone with The Burning Side. It was good. I read a lot of Allie Hazelwood. I love Allie Hazelwood. So I had a good reading month in May. My reading month in June was good. I read a lot of romance this month. I think almost every book I read was romance this month. But you know what? You can't blame a Venus girl for being into romance, can you? You can't, okay? So, I can't wait to talk to you about my June books. The only thing about June, I had a lot of DNFs. I think I DNF'd like 4 or 5 books because I just was not into them. And my wise friend Courtney taught me, if you are not vibing with a book, just DNF it. Your TBR is too long to suffer through something you don't really like. So, with that little piece of advice, that is my May reads, and I will see you next month for June's.